Miss Haley, I have strict instructions. You are not on the guest list. The head of security didn't even blink as he physically blocked the gate. I'm the bride's sister, I said. I know. That's exactly why you're banned. I dialed my father immediately. He picked up on the first ring, his voice bored and cold. You really thought you'd be invited? You don't fit the brand, Haley. Go home. The line went dead. Before I tell you what was inside the silver box I left on that security desk, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't cry as I drove away from the gate. Tears imply surprise. And nothing my father did surprised me anymore. I just checked the time on the dashboard and calculated the route to the mainland. My name is Haley, and I am 28 years old. To the world, I'm the invisible owner of HM Visuals, a luxury media company that quietly dominates the high-end event market in Florida. But to Richard, my father, I was just a bad investment he was finally writing off. The ban hadn't happened at the dinner table or over a family phone call. It happened 1 week ago, in his office. That was Richard's way. He didn't parent, he managed. He called me in for a strategy meeting regarding the wedding. I remember sitting across from his mahogany desk. He didn't offer me coffee. He didn't ask how I was. He was looking at a spreadsheet on his laptop, his brow furrowed. Haley, he said, not looking up. We need to discuss the optics for the weekend. The optics? I asked. Julian's family, he said, finally locking eyes with me. They are old money. Standard Oil money. They value a certain aesthetic. A certain pedigree. He gestured vaguely at my outfit, a practical blazer and slacks, the uniform of a woman who works 18-hour days building an empire. You don't fit the brand, Haley. He didn't say it with malice. He said it with the cold, dead-eyed pragmatism of a CFO cutting a failing department. Savannah is the face of this family. She is the asset. You are a liability. You're awkward. You're plain. Your presence at the main table would dilute the brand value of this merger. He actually called his daughter's wedding a merger. And right there, the illusion shattered. I finally understood the mechanism of my childhood. Most parents operate on love or duty. Richard operated on return on investment. He was a transactional parent. For 20 years, he had poured capital into Savannah pageant coaches, modeling classes, finishing school. She was a high-yield bond, designed to marry rich and elevate the family status. I was the low-yield savings account he'd forgotten to close. He hadn't invested in me, so he saw no value in me. It wasn't hatred, it was accounting. I was a sunken cost, and he was simply liquidating the asset. So I'm not invited? I asked. My voice steady. It's a business decision, he said, closing his laptop. We'll tell people you're sick. It's cleaner that way. Don't come to the island, Haley. Don't make this difficult. I looked at him then, really looked at him. He thought he was a titan of industry managing a crisis. He had no idea he was talking to the woman who secretly held the deed to the very ground he was planning to stand on. He thought I was a liability. He didn't know I was the bank. Understood, I said. I stood up and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I just went to my car and called my lawyer. They broke me when I was a child, by making me feel worthless. But today, they were about to find out that worthless things can sometimes cost you everything you own. I sat in my hotel room on the mainland, staring at the red exclamation mark on my phone screen. Message not delivered. I had tried to text Julian, the groom. He was a decent man, kind in a way that wealthy men rarely are, and I wanted to warn him. I wanted to tell him that I wasn't coming. Not because I didn't support him, but because I'd been barred at the gate. I wanted to be the bigger person. But Richard and Savannah hadn't just banned me. They had erased me. I was blocked. On his phone. On his social media. Everywhere. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from a mutual friend. Someone who had made the cut for the B-list invites. She didn't say hello. She just sent a screenshot of the wedding group chat. I opened the image, and the air left the room. It was a message from Savannah to the entire wedding party, including Julian's family. I know everyone is asking about Haley. We didn't want to ruin the mood, but we have to be safe. We've hired extra security because Haley has been making threats. She's having a breakdown. She told Dad she would burn the venue down if she couldn't be the center of attention. If you see her, do not engage. She is dangerous. I read it twice. Violent, unstable, dangerous. They hadn't just uninvited me to save their brand. They had assassinated my character to cover their tracks. They knew Julian would ask questions. They knew he would wonder why his future sister-in-law was absent. So they turned me into a monster. It was a masterful stroke of PR. By painting me as a violent stalker, they turned their cruelty into a safety measure. They weren't being mean. They were being protective. I walked to the window and looked out at the water. Somewhere across that bay, on the Gilded Key, Savannah was probably crying fake tears, receiving comfort from her bridesmaids about her crazy sister. She was building her perfect life on a foundation of my destruction. I felt a cold calm settle over me. It was the same feeling I got before a high-stakes negotiation. They thought they were dealing with the Haley who cried when she wasn't picked for kickball. They didn't realize they were dealing with a woman who navigates shark-infested corporate waters for fun. Burn it down? I whispered to the empty room. Why would I burn it down? I walked back to my bag and pulled out the silver box. I opened it and looked at the documents inside. The deed, the insurance revocation, and one other piece of paper that made their lie about me being a stalker absolutely suicidal. They claimed I was a stranger they needed protection from. They claimed I was a threat, but they had forgotten one crucial detail about their own wedding planning. They demanded the best. They demanded perfection. And in Florida, when you want the best media coverage, you don't hire a stranger. You hire HM Visuals. They had accused me of being a stalker, yet they had paid me $45,000 to watch them sleep. I picked up the contract. My signature was right there at the bottom, waiting for the groom to read it. They wanted a show? I was about to give them the performance of a lifetime. I opened the folder labeled Project, gilded on my laptop. It was the master file for the wedding media package. Inside were floor plans, lighting schematics, and a signed agreement worth $45,000. Savannah had always been obsessed with labels. She didn't just want a photographer. She wanted the photographer. She didn't want a videographer. She wanted a cinematographer. In Florida's high-end event circuit, if you wanted the kind of coverage that ends up in Vogue or Tatler, there was only one name you called: HM Visuals. She assumed HM stood for something European, or perhaps a male artist she could flirt with. She never bothered to check the LLC filings. She never asked to meet the owner, preferring to deal with my booking agents who were just my very capable, very loyal staff members instructed to keep my identity a secret until the check cleared. If she had asked, she would have learned that HM stood for Haley Madeline. Madeline was our grandmother, the woman who taught me that silence is a weapon, and patience is how you reload it. I scrolled down to the special requests section of the contract. It was standard for high-profile clients to list security concerns, paparazzi, ex-lovers, rivals. But Savannah's entry was personal. Client requests absolute discretion regarding guest list. Security team must be briefed on a potential threat. Miss Haley, bride's estranged sister. Individual is mentally unstable and obsessed with the bride. If spotted near the media team, do not engage. Alert private security immediately. I traced the words on the screen. She had paid me $45,000 to protect her from me. She had signed a legal document declaring me a threat to my own company. It was the kind of poetic justice you usually only find in fiction. But Savannah was so blinded by her own narrative that she had walked right into the trap. She wanted the best. She got the best. And now, the best was coming to collect. I closed the laptop and turned to the silver box on the bed. It wasn't a wedding gift. It was a dossier. First, I placed the deed. The legal proof that Grandma Madeline had bypassed Richard entirely, leaving the Gilded Key to me in a fee-simple defeasible arrangement. Next, the revocation of insurance. A single sheet of paper that turned their million-dollar party into an illegal liability nightmare. And finally, the contract. I highlighted the special requests section in yellow neon. I highlighted my signature at the bottom, Haley M., proprietor. I sealed the box and tied it with a white silk ribbon. It looked innocent. It looked like a toaster or a set of steak knives. It looked like submission. I went to the closet and pulled out the garment bag I'd brought. For years, I had dressed to blend in, to avoid drawing Richard's critical eye, or Savannah's mockery. I wore neutrals. I wore sensible shoes. I made myself small so they wouldn't have to shrink me. Not today. I pulled out a white suit. Sharp tailoring, Italian silk, structured shoulders. It wasn't a bridal white. It was an icy, blinding white, the kind of suit you wear when you own the building, the land, and the air everyone else is breathing. I put it on, buttoning the jacket with slow precision. I applied a shade of red lipstick that Savannah had once told me was too aggressive for my face. I looked in the mirror. The invisible daughter was gone. The awkward sister was gone. Staring back at me was the landlord. I picked up the silver box. It was time to go to a wedding. I pulled up to the security gate for the second time that day. The sun had set, painting the sky in bruises of purple and black. The resort lights were blazing in the distance, a beacon of exclusivity and excess. The same guard stepped out of the booth. He looked tired. When he saw my car, his hand went to his radio. probably ready to call for backup. But I didn't try to drive through. I just rolled down the window and held out the silver box. "I'm not coming in," I said, my voice calm over the hum of the engine. "I just need you to deliver a wedding gift." He hesitated, eyeing the box suspiciously. "Ma'am, I really can't. It's for the groom. From the property owner." I smiled. A sharp, humorless expression. "He'll want to see this. It's regarding the venue's liability status." That did it. Security guards are trained to handle crazy exes, but they panic at the words liability status. He took the box. "Make sure he opens it now," I added. Before the cake, I rolled up the window and reversed the car, parking just outside the perimeter fence where the signal was still strong. I didn't need to be in the room to watch the detonation. I opened my laptop and logged into the HM Visuals master server. My team was inside. They were professionals, the best in the business, and they followed protocol. Protocol demanded a live feed to the remote director for quality control on high-budget events. I was the remote director. The screen flickered to life. Camera A. Main ballroom. It was sickeningly beautiful. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto white orchids. My parents were at the head table, looking like royalty. Richard was laughing, a cigar already in hand, playing the part of the benevolent patriarch. Catherine was dabbing her eyes, performing maternal pride for the cameras. And there was Savannah, radiant and smug, clutching Julian's hand. She looked like she had won everything she ever wanted. Julian stood up to give a toast. He looked happy. Innocent. He had no idea he was standing in a trap. On the screen, I saw a member of the waitstaff approach the head table. He whispered something to Julian and placed the silver box in front of him. Julian looked confused. He picked up the tag. I zoomed in on the feed. From the owner. Savannah laughed and reached for the gift box. But Julian opened it first. He pulled out the deed, read the terms, and froze. Savannah brushed it off until she saw the clause herself. Then Julian found the second paper, the HM Visuals contract with the stalker sister, warning glowing above my signature. Shock rippled through the room. Julian stood, pale, shoved the contract at Richard, and the ballroom fell silent. Richard read it, terror spreading across his face. Julian pointed at the cameras. "You said she was dangerous. She's the photographer." I arrived at the gate as Richard burst outside, raging. The guard blocked him. I told them plainly. I now owned the island, and was shutting the illegal event down. Richard called me ungrateful. I said he never built anything, he exploited us. Savannah stumbled out, mascara running, screaming that the island was hers. When I said no, she snapped. She grabbed the guard's baton and shattered my car window. Julian tackled her in the dirt as sirens approached. I left them behind. Months later, the marriage was annulled. Richard was drowning in lawsuits, and their assets were frozen. I sold the island and opened my own studio in Paris. Their dynasty is over. Mine finally began.